Storm watch here in Florida. A tense wait tonight and the desperate search for shelter and supplies before Hurricane Francis slams ashore. The Russian school siege ends in tragedy. A gruesome scene, hundreds of hostages, many of them children, victims in a final chaotic showdown. Heart surgery. President Bill Clinton in the hospital for serious heart surgery. Tonight, the prognosis. And the home stretch. His big night behind him, the president faces a new report on jobs, where both campaigns go from here.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw. Substituting and reporting from Sebastian, Florida, Brian Williams.
And good evening from Sebastian, Florida, where just off the coast behind us tonight, a massive storm is approaching slowly. It means a highly uncertain future for this stretch of Florida coast, where 2 million people have been told to leave their homes in the largest evacuation in Florida's history. Tonight we have Hurricane Francis covered from its arrival in the Bahamas to its slow approach now toward the state of Florida, packing with it so much wind and water. We have a team of correspondents standing by. But this Friday evening of the Labor Day weekend is an eventful one. Today we learned former President Bill Clinton faces heart surgery after suffering chest pains. And we're going to begin halfway around the world in southern Russia with a horrible act of terrorism today. More than 200 people dead, 700 hospitalized, many of the dead and wounded school children. NBC's Jim Maceda is there and begins our coverage tonight. NBC's Jim Maceda with our coverage from Russia tonight. Thanks. And now to the dangerous, changeable situation here on the Florida coast, where a huge storm, larger in mass, though not as powerful as Hurricane Andrew, and almost the size of the state of Texas, is churning off to the east and headed this way. We have two reports to begin our coverage tonight, starting with NBC's Robert Hager, who is to the north of here in Melbourne, Florida. Robert, good evening.
Brian, there's been a really massive evacuation here from what's already one of the nation's most heavily populated coastlines. Right now, that storm is lashing the Bahamas, but even as it's weakened some today, it's still a powerful Category 3 and so broad that besides the wind, it threatens to inundate this area with rain. There are early ominous signs here of what's to come as the surf rises and the first outer bands of rain brush the shore. Earlier, all through the night, the exodus of cars and people continued. Hundreds of thousands left barrier islands and low-lying areas. And today, from normally bustling Miami Beach, north all the way to Daytona, the evacuation appears to have been effective.
We wanted to stay, but we're going to take off this time.
Beaches are deserted, coastal roadways empty, and businesses boarded up. In Hollywood, Florida, stragglers were told that time was running out.
We warned everybody about the hurricane coming. They'd like you off the beach by 7 tonight, if not by 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, the latest.
But getting away wasn't easy at this late hour. Gasoline was running short.
For like the last 25 miles, there's no gas stations open, no gas.
Cars lined up at pumps, only to find they'd been shut down. Stations boarded up, managers left. The few food outlets that tried to stay open were overwhelmed. And shelters were another problem. This one in West Palm Beach was to accommodate 5,000, but was already filling up and people spilling into the hallways. Families, young children and infants and elderly too, all crowded in. Some shelters had to turn people away. Air travel was a nightmare. People slept in the Miami terminal as flight after flight canceled. Fort Lauderdale Airport closed down, and so did Orlando and others. Fighter planes already gone from Patrick Air Force Base. And what to expect next? NBC's Al Roker.
It's at 115 miles per hour. It's moving west-northwest around 9. At that rate, it's probably going to make landfall along the Florida coast sometime, probably around 8 o'clock tomorrow night.
Florida's Governor Jeb Bush.
It will take a long time to make it through our state, and rainfall is expected to be 10 to 20 inches.
So tonight, Florida waits, and people here wonder what this potentially dangerous storm will do next. Robert Hager, NBC News, Melbourne.
Kissimmee, Florida, where Charlie will meet Francis. at a potential crossroad of catastrophe.
We're going to test the mettle of the people in this community because it will be devastating when it comes through.
3 weeks ago, Hurricane Charley ransacked Kissimmee and Osceola County.
This will be representative of what we've had in downtown Kissimmee.
Destroying or damaging over 14,000 homes and businesses.
Let me show you something here. This is a map of Florida. As you look at this purple line, it's the projected path of Hurricane Francis. And this was the path in red of Hurricane Charley. This is Kissimmee, where we are now, and X really does mark the spot.
They're kind of a little freaked out more about this one than the last one.
Residents here are torn between repairing and preparing. On East Flagway, Jeff Lorenzo is still cutting down the past, while his neighbor, Francis Zavalos, readies for the future.
Did you do this last time?
No, we didn't. We didn't think it was going to be that bad.
The streets here are littered with Charlie's handiwork.
And we're taking this stuff to the dump so it don't go flying around.
Most here plan to stay. Somehow the double jeopardy that further threatens to tear their homes apart has brought people closer together.
We know our neighbors that we didn't know before. But it's going to be fun the next couple days.
With Charlie still at their feet and Francis knocking at the door, in Kissimmee, Florida, there should be plenty of fun to go around. Martin Savage, NBC News, Kissimmee.
We continue watching the storm behind us, and up next as we continue this Friday night, the very latest on former President Bill Clinton's health. He's been hospitalized with chest pain. Heart bypass surgery could happen as soon as tomorrow. And later, into the home stretch tonight, Bush and Kerry fight over jobs, and there are new poll numbers out. Is this what they call the bounce? Sebastian, Florida, where shortly after noontime today, as we were tracking Hurricane Francis, a surprising announcement came out of the New York City office of the 42nd President of the United States. Bill Clinton had been admitted to the hospital for heart bypass surgery. The questions naturally started instantly. How could it be that the former president, who has been looking so trim and fit lately, needs major heart surgery, and apparently as soon as possible? The story tonight from NBC News Chief Science Correspondent Robert Bazell in depth.
Mr. Clinton looked good at public appearances, including his speech at the Democratic National Convention in July.
Send John Kerry. God bless you.
But last night, he went to his local hospital, complaining of shortness of breath and chest pain. Doctors determined he was not in immediate danger, but they told him to go this morning for a test like this, an angiogram. It revealed serious blockage in several arteries that supply blood to the heart. It is what doctors call acute coronary syndrome. Senator Hillary Clinton quickly interrupted a trip to the New York State Fair.
They did advise him to have bypass surgery and to do it as soon as he could.
And President Bush called Mr. Clinton from Air Force One to wish him well, and earlier talked about him during a campaign stop in Milwaukee.
He is in our thoughts and prayers. We send him our best wishes for a swift and speedy recovery.
Mr. Clinton was put on a drug called Plavix to prevent blood clots that might cause a heart attack, and moved to Columbia Presbyterian Hospital in Manhattan, where he will have the surgery in the next few days. In the surgery, doctors will take blood vessels from Clinton's leg and his chest and use these to bypass the clogged heart arteries, assuring the critical flow of blood to heart muscle. More than 500,000 Americans a year get coronary bypass surgery. Most patients are out of commission for about a month.
I don't think he's in any danger at all. This is a pretty common situation for a 58-year-old American male.
In recent months, Clinton lost a lot of weight, but experts say his years of addiction to fast food
I just couldn't resist.
We're gonna miss you.
French fries and a chicken sandwich.
and his constant battle with being overweight are very likely factors in a disease that develops over many years. Robert Bazell, NBC News, New York.
Up next, a new snapshot of the presidential race, and later, getting out ahead of Francis, the very latest from here in the hurricane zone. There's economic news tonight. Medicare premiums are going up, and this increase in numbers for August came out today, something candidates from both political parties are watching very closely. Payrolls expanded by 144,000. That is a bit less than economists had forecast, but the numbers for June and July were revised upward. The unemployment rate ticked down 1/10 of a point to 5.4%. As you might expect, this was the topic on the campaign trail today. Here with that, NBC's David Gregory.
Off and running. The president today looking for a post-convention bounce and a reversal of fortunes in Pennsylvania, a key battleground he lost 4 years ago.
Laura and I are here to ask for the vote.
Today's job numbers, a smaller than anticipated boost in August, loomed large on the campaign trail today. Mr. Bush argued his tax cuts have led to the creation of 1.7 million jobs since last summer, but that's far shy of the 2.6 million jobs the administration promised this year alone.
Our economy is strong and getting stronger.
Senator John Kerry was in Ohio, where job losses have been particularly high and a major campaign issue.
Just today, the latest job numbers have come out for the last month, 144,000 jobs. At that rate, you won't have a net new job created in the state of Ohio until 2011.
Just beneath the economic debate today, a new level of personal bitterness in this campaign, with polls showing a slight edge for the president after weeks of Republican attacks on Senator Kerry's war record and a GOP convention which questioned his national security credentials. Kerry is attempting to come roaring back.
I will not have my commitment to defend this country questioned by those who refused to serve when they could have and who misled America into Iraq.
Iraq and the war on terror were major themes of the president's convention speech last night.
We are serving a vital and historic cause that will make our country safer.
As the White House anxiously awaits public reaction to the speech, this from some undecided voters in Ohio who watched last night.
I'm definitely not going to vote for President Bush.
Not to be chauvinistic, but he seems like a man's man. He reminds me of my buddy.
So would you vote for him?
If I had to vote tomorrow, probably.
Both campaigns now begin a march through the battlegrounds in the final 8-week push to Election Day. David Gregory, NBC News, Milwaukee.
And tonight we have the first snapshot of the presidential race since the GOP convention got underway at the beginning of this week. A new poll by Time magazine shows the president getting a significant bump, an 11-point lead, with Mr. Bush the choice of 52%, Mr. Kerry at 41%. And most of the interviews for this poll, by the way, were done before President Bush's speech last night. Here are the numbers from Wall Street today. The Dow was off just over 30 points. NASDAQ down almost 29 on the day. For the week, a mixed finish. The Dow up 65. NASDAQ, however, was down more than 17. When we come back, one of the 2 million storm stories here in the path of Hurricane Francis. Back here tonight from Sebastian, Florida. We'll see you from here in Florida again tomorrow night. Good night.